Hello, incredible educator extraordinaires out there. So wonderful to be here and talk with you. Welcome you back from Thanksgiving vacation. Oh, the wobbles back into this school week can be challenging for everyone, but I'm hoping your day is going pretty well. I want to talk about something dun, 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 that all of us have to deal with, and many of us have a wide range of feelings and emotions about assessment data. It's getting to be that time of year when we are contacted by multiple people and with the range of, I've got some data, now what the heck do I do with it, to, oh my gosh, don't make me look at this data, it is so frustrating, to there's got to be something in there that we can learn, but I just don't know how to look at it, to blah, 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 fill in the blanks. So many questions that we get about assessment data. It's a reality. I wish in some ways some of our assessments were not part of our reality, but they are here. And data are data, and data can help us explore different questions that we have. As Alberto Cairo says, data does not tell us answers. Data leads to questions, not answers, I think was the quote. Probably mangled that up. I'll put it in the notes in just a second. I'll share out. But one thing that I do want to talk about is many of us may have heard data, like junk in is junk out. So we have to understand what data we have. And I'm not saying that all of our data are junk. In fact, I think very little of our data is junk. But I do think kind of if we take that adage and if we expand it out to really think about, well, what data do we actually have? And therefore, what questions can we actually explore and investigate with the data we have? And there are a couple different questions that I use to talk about and to share out with schools as they are. Sorry, I'm trying to pull up a um, showcase for you, trying to figure out what you can see. So to see if you can see what I can see, let's try this again. Not sure what you've been looking at since now, but I'm going to pull it up because there are a couple questions that we talk a lot about and think a lot about as we are working with people who are trying to make sense of their assessment data. And here's the deal. These questions work with all of our data. We're just going to talk about them from the assessment perspective. So one is, what scale should or do we want to look at? Are we trying to look at the student level? Are we trying to look at small groups? Are we trying to look at the class, the grade level, our school, our district, the state? Fill in the blanks. But what scale we're interested in looking at in terms of our question needs to match what we actually have in our data set. Okay, so one is scale. The next one is what area should or are we interested in looking at? Are we trying to ask a question about students' understanding of a standard, about a specific topic or concept, right? Below the standard, like those individual components? Are we trying to figure out how they're doing on an individual assessment or how they're doing overall across our subject area or across our skill development that they are working on? What is the area of focus that we are interested in exploring in terms of our learners? So we have scale, and then we have the area of focus, and then kind of what should our goal be, or what actually is our objective? Are we trying to explore where a learner is at right now? All of our state assessments show us where our learners were at multiple months ago. So are we trying to figure out where our students were, where our student is right now, how our learner got to where they are right now in terms of what they were working on to get here in their progression of learning, or where is the learner going? What's our trajectory of where our learner might be going and thinking about? So the scale, the area of focus, and then our objective in terms of what we're actually looking for in our learners is what influences what we can get out of the assessment data. If we have state assessment data of our school as compared to the district, as compared to the state for our fifth graders last year, then we can ask questions about how did our fifth graders last year do overall? How many of them were proficient, near proficient, advanced, or you know, underperforming? Each state has their own ways of like the binnings of how they do things. So we can think about how our fifth graders overall are doing. Sometimes we can drill down to subgroups to figure out how our students are doing, our fifth graders overall are doing. But we cannot use state assessment data to look at individual students. We cannot use state assessment data of our fifth graders last year to make a conclusion about our fifth graders this year. It can inform and we can draw inferences from it, but they are different students. So that's a disconnect of the scale and of the goal of what we're looking at. So thinking about what scale are we looking at? Like if we have state data, a state district school data, we can't ask a question about individual students. What's the area of focus? If we have state assessment data about our students' overall scores, we can't look at individual topics or concepts. Sometimes those show up on our state test. So I'm not saying overall, like generally you can't do it, but if you're looking at your overall score of percentage of students by groups, you can't do that. If we are interested in where our students are at today, we cannot use our state assessment data from last spring. But those state assessment data can give us a lot of information about where our students were last year on overall of their understanding of whatever content area they were getting tested on at the school, district, and state level, for example. So there's a lot there. We just have to make sure our questions are matching the data that we have. So that is my first step of thinking about how to actually use assessment data and think about what we can get out of it is make sure what we are wanting, what we're asking actually meets the data that we have. Because otherwise, it can just be feel like this black hole of a time suck, and we can get really frustrated and we can feel like this isn't actually helping us and there's no good there. And there's a lot of good there. We just got to align our scale, our area of focus, our goal objective with the data that we have. So with that, reach out. Happy to answer any questions that you have. Happy to look through your state assessment data or other data with you. And as always, thank you for all that you do and truly enjoy playing with the data.